In a quiet village nestled amidst rolling hills, there stood a dilapidated house that had been home to several tenants over the years. The house, though ancient and somewhat crumbling, had a reputation that overshadowed its physical state. It was known as the House of Lost Men. For years, the tenants had come and gone, and with each new arrival, there was a whispered tale that surfaced, the story of the landlord's daughter, Maureen. The rumors were as old as the house itself, and they spread like wildfire through the village, sparking curiosity, fear, and awe. Maureen was as beautiful as she was enigmatic. Her dark eyes held secrets, and her smile, though warm, seemed to carry an unspoken warning. She had inherited the land and the house from her father, but despite her wealth and beauty, she lived in solitude, rarely seen except when tending to the tenants or walking alone under the moonlight. The house was hers now, but her reputation loomed larger than the property itself. It was said that every man who fell in love with Maureen mysteriously vanished. Not a single one had been seen again after they pledged their love for her. Their belongings, however, remained untouched in their rooms. Their clothes, books, and personal items, all perfectly preserved as if they had simply stepped out for a brief moment and never returned. The only thing that ever changed was the vacant expression of the house, growing emptier with every disappearance. Some said it was the curse of the house, a long-held family secret that had been passed down through generations. Others whispered that Maureen herself was the curse. That her beauty and charm were only the surface of a far darker and older power, one that she had inherited from her ancestors, a power that drew men in and then consumed them. One evening, a young and daring man named Daniel moved into the house. He was a traveler, passing through the village and seeking temporary lodging. He had heard the stories, but as was his nature, he was skeptical, believing them to be mere superstition. A man of logic and reason, Daniel couldn't understand how anyone could fall for such far-fetched rumors. When he first laid eyes on Maureen, it was as if the world around him had faded. She was standing at the entrance of the house, a soft light from the setting sun casting a golden glow around her. Their gazes locked, and for the first time in his life, Daniel felt something he had never experienced before, an overwhelming, magnetic pull. It was as if she were calling him, drawing him in, making him forget everything he had ever known. He was not the first man to fall for her, and he wouldn't be the last. As days passed, Daniel and Maureen grew closer. They would talk for hours, share stories, and laugh as though they had known each other for years. The bond between them deepened with every passing day. But despite his growing affection, Daniel refused to believe in the curse. He was determined to prove that love and logic could exist together, that nothing supernatural could break the bond he had with Maureen. But then, strange things began to happen. Daniel would wake up in the dead of night, hearing whispers from the walls, and on several occasions, he would find his belongings moved, as though someone had been in his room when he wasn't looking. One evening, he found a set of keys that were not his own, placed carefully on the nightstand beside his bed. The room felt colder than usual, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Then, one night, after confessing his love for Maureen, something changed. The world seemed to shift. The room grew darker, and the air became thick with a presence that wasn't there before. Maureen stood before him, her eyes glimmering with a strange, unfathomable depth. Her smile was the same, but there was something else lacking within it, something that sent a shiver down his spine. Without warning, he was overcome with an unshakable urge to leave. He tried to stand, but his body refused to obey him. His feet felt as if they were rooted to the ground. He could see the door, but it seemed impossibly far away, the space between him and freedom stretching longer than he could endure. Panic rose within him, but he couldn't move. His vision blurred as a deep, dark fog began to creep in, engulfing his thoughts. And then, as if by some cruel magic, the world faded to black. The next morning, Maureen appeared as though nothing had happened. She greeted the tenants as she always did, offering her soft smile and kind words. The house was as quiet as it had always been, but something was missing. Daniel's room remained untouched. His belongings were neatly arranged as though he had only just left. But he was gone. No one knew where he had gone or what had happened to him. The rumors began once more, but this time, they were different. The whispers weren't just about Maureen being cursed. Now, there was fear in the voices of the village. No one dared to question the stories any longer. For Maureen, the house had always been home. But now, it was a prison of her own making. She had long since come to terms with the curse, though it had taken her years to understand it fully. Each man who fell in love with her did so without knowing the truth, that the curse wasn't hers to control, and that it wasn't the house that claimed them, but something much older, something within her that couldn't be ignored. The story of the landlord's daughter would continue, as it always had, drawing in the curious, the brave, and the desperate. But none of them would ever leave. The house, with its dark secrets and endless stories, would stand silent, waiting for the next soul to be lost in its endless depths.